And welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Zero is Your Hero. Why you need a zero in your retirement plan. No other than Mr. Lance Mays.
Hello.
Welcome,
Thank you for
welcome.
thank you for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Lance, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
I've been in the financial services industry as both a representative and a corporate person for almost 40 years now. My focus at different stages, one was corporate wise, working and training financial advisors across the United States, and then working individually with agents as well. So I had both a corporate side and then I had a consumer side as well. My focus that I gravitated towards was how to be able to get into proper planning for a retirement that most people are not thinking about or not understanding. Because what I've seen in all the years I've been doing this in over 35 different states, I've given over 700 live seminars and speaking engagements across the United States. And I had a national radio show called Wall Street Meets Main Street, where 5 days a week people would call in and ask questions about financial services and retirement, how to plan for retirement, and what is retirement going to look like for, quote, me. Uh, the biggest concern that I found overall was that most people thought that they had it pretty well figured out because they've worked with an advisor or they had a broker or they've accumulated, let's say, X number of dollars and figured that they were going to be just fine. But then as time wore on, or they saw friends or family that went into retirement and started to see all of the what ifs that came up, people starting to become sick, hurt, or disabled, people that started to spend through their money faster than what they had anticipated for. And that usually came because of two different things. One, of course, was the unforeseen taxes that people have in retirement. And the other, of course, is problems or concerns about long term health care. Unfortunately and fortunately, none of us are going to live forever. And a lot of what ifs happen along the way. Perhaps you've gotten in a car accident. Perhaps you've fallen ill or you had a stroke or a cancer or some other type of misfortune happen to you. These are things that a lot of people don't care about, or I should say, have cared enough about to be able to do the proper planning. They figured if I just put aside so much money, I'm going to be fine. And then the other mantra they always heard time and time again by their broker or their advisor or other family members is defer, defer, defer. Let's get those 401ks built up. Let's get our IRA built up and let's defer those taxes because it's going to be better when you're in retirement. And that's the biggest misconception that most people have going into retirement is not planning for the what ifs in long-term care or health problems and not understanding the taxes that they're going to be facing when they get to retirement age or when they choose to retire full time. That's how I got into it. That's what I've been focused on for over 35 years.
And thank you so much for sharing your zero to the world, Mr. Lance. Thank you. So tell us, let's start with a powerful and unique title. Zero is your hero. What is the zero and why is it positioning it as a hero, such as a transformative concept for retirement planning?
Exactly correct. And it sticks in a person's mind. Zero means several different things. And in the book, I cover them all individually. And I try to get people's mindset around why zero is important for themselves. First and foremost, zero is understanding that you want to reach the zero tax bracket when you're in retirement. That is a transformative number that people don't quite understand because they think, okay, well, I'm in retirement. Well, if you're receiving a Social Security check and maybe you also have other investment income or a hobby, or your spouse is also in Social Security and you're bringing in X number of dollars, if you're making over $40,000 a year, you start to reach and exceed a threshold where your Social Security also becomes taxed. And a lot of people don't think about that. Now, let's assume you're early to mid 70s. If you're over 73 years old, you have to start taking something called RMDs, required minimum distributions. I cover that at length in the book as well. People don't understand that the money that they have in an IRA, a 401k, wherever they have these, what's it called, tax deferred dollars, the government loves that because in their mind, it's not your money, it's theirs. It has not been taxed yet. Well, in most people's mind, well, I don't need the money. I'm not going to take it. Well, that's not the way it works. If you're 73 or older, you have to. You're required by law to start taking an income out of those dollars that you have set aside. Now, let's say you've taken out enough dollars, or you're required to add that to your Social Security, and then you reach another threshold, and now your Social Security becomes taxed. Between 50 and 85% of your Social Security gets taxed at ordinary income rates, plus the tax that you now have to pay on the IRA dollars as well. So you can be facing a very large tax burden that you didn't plan on unless you planned. And that's why I really talk about the importance of having the right kind of plan and getting down to that zero tax bracket when you actually start to retire. Because retiring with no income tax required, no tax on your Social Security is huge. It's paramount. It makes the difference between having a peaceful, relaxing retirement and stressing out over the fact that, oh my gosh, I have all these taxes that come and due. I have this money that comes in plus my Social Security money. Together, it puts me over the threshold. And now my wife's taking Social Security. And all of a sudden, you've got all these sources of income that come in, and it starts recreating a very large tax bill. People have always lived on the mantra. Advisors have always pushed the mantra: defer, defer, defer. It's going to be better when you retire. No, it's not. Because when a person retires, that means they're not working. And they usually are giving up. What people don't realize is the exclusions, deductions, and credits that currently, if you're working, allow you to start writing off, if you will, some of your expenses and being able to reduce the amount of tax that you pay. But when you retire, well, in most cases, people have their home paid off. And that's the largest deduction that people have, is a mortgage deduction. The second one is children. Not too many people in their late 60s and 70s are having young dependent children, or at least when you're retired, you hope you aren't. The third one is most people are very charitable minded, and they, for years, have been able to donate money to a charity. Well, when you're on a fixed income and you're older, you don't do that so much anymore. You'd rather donate your time working somewhere, and that's not tax deductible. You don't have the children, that's not tax deductible. You don't have the mortgage deduction anymore, that's not tax deductible. So your largest tax deductions when you retire, poof, are gone. So everything that you start taking in as income eventually is going to start to snowball and create an income and create a taxable event, which will tax your Social Security. I hope that covered it kind of quickly for you.
Totally empowering and interesting answer. Mr. Lance, what was the personal or professional aha moment that made you realize that a zero was a missing piece in the most people's retirement strategy?
Great question again. The first zero is about making sure you do all you can with proper planning before it gets too late to get yourself down to the zero tax bracket when you choose to retire and when you start being required to take those distributions. Or even you just need extra money every month to live on and it comes out of an IRA. These are the worst things you could possibly do. The second aha moment came, I guess the way you look at it is zero, meaning zero losses in your portfolio. Would you rather have a consistent, steady return on your investment when you get to be, let's just say, 50 years and older? For the primary investment, your primary money you're setting aside for your retirement? Or do you want to worry about the ups and downs of the market? Because no one has a crystal ball and no one knows when the market's going to do this or when it's going to do this. And if it does this, what if that is the time when you start to need your money? So there's a certain point, an aha point, where unless you're extremely wealthy, you don't want to have to go back and make that money over again. And in chapter 8 of the book, I cover that very, very succinctly with a client. The book is composed of a lot of different stories, if you will, of my clients, but it's practical for every Mr. and Mrs. America that's out there because there are the same concerns everybody has. People don't realize that if you have a 30% loss in your portfolio, which has happened 17 times, by the way, it takes
Mm.
a 43% gain just to get back to where you were, to get back to zero, if you will. Now, if you had a different type of investment, one that only recorded positive gains and never went backwards, and each year, at the end of that year, the worst thing that ever happened, even if the market went down, 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 you recorded a zero. Would you rather have a zero on your year end statement as far as growth, but never touch the principal, never touch your premium year's earnings? Or would you rather have it go down and then you have to work like heck and hope the market goes up again just to try to get back to where you were? So the second zero is zero loss, zero risk with your portfolio of the dollars that you need for your retirement savings. Did that answer that question for you? I cover it pretty succinctly in several different chapters in the book as well.
Indeed, Mr. Lance, for the average person, zero in finances often means having nothing. It's a negative. How did you flip this concept on its head to become the foundation of security and freedom?
Well, that's a good question. It becomes a sacred foundation, if you will, because you know that no matter what the market does, you're not going to lose your principal and you're not going to lose what you've earned over the previous years. So that's where zero is your hero. That you, as a worst case scenario at the end of the year, have zero growth, but you also had zero losses. So your principal and what you've earned over the previous years are still intact, not touched, not diminished. And the best part is, let's just hypothetically say that the market, you're in the S&P as a general index. Let's just hypothetically say that you got into the market and it was at 1,000. At the end of the year, it went up to 1,100, 10% growth. You locked in that 10% growth. So now you have 1,100 basis in what your account is. The next year we have, let's just say 2008. A lot of people remember how bad it was. That was one of the worst stock drops in history. So 2008 or another similar scenario happens, and everybody's account starts to go back, goes down, loses value, loses money, loses principal, loses interest, loses previous year's gains. But your account stayed right at the 1,100 mark. Everybody else could be down around 700, 600, 800 maybe, and they're going to have to work to get that same real estate, if you will, over again. But you start out the next year already at the 1,100. And if it goes up to 1,200, you've now gained another 10%. Everybody else would have gone from a 700 or an 800 only up to, a few more points, maybe at the most 900. So over time, having a more conservative approach that only takes positives and never records negatives. So in other words, the worst you get is a 0 is why that's a hero, and why that in turn will work well for you long-term in your portfolio and your retirement dreams.
Mr. Lance, truly, truly empowering. Is the zero a specific financial product, a number on spreadsheet, or more a philosophical mindset shift?
No, there are certain products that do offer that, and I wouldn't want to go into mention them as is. Like when I had the radio show, and tens of thousands of people would listen to you. You have to speak in the generality of the concept of what it does. Every person is different. Every person's outlook, every person's income, every person's goal of retirement is different. That's the reason there's different flavored lollipops. Everybody's tastes is different, but it is a concept, and there are products out there that will have a reduced upside to make sure you never ever have a zero downside where you lose. Zero is the worst thing that could happen in that account, but your gains and your principal are locked in. Just for that year, you may get a 0. Would you rather have a 0, or would you rather lose 20% of your portfolio?
I'd rather have a 0. Mr. Lance. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, Because of My Abstract Essay, is already in 5th season. Abstract Poetry in 2nd season, and my Book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my Food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 4th season, and my Baby Podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in 4th season, and Movie 101 review, Music 101 in 4th season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So finally, Mr. Lance, for our listeners who were feeling anxious about their retirement, what is your first piece of advice for them?
Honestly and sincerely, it would be to get my book and read it. It's a very easy read. I put it together in a very conversational manner. Most people have a conception of financial services to be some mystique or something that their eyes will glaze over or they don't understand. I put it in very easy to understand. I wrote it so that my mother could understand it, so that anybody that can read could have a better understanding of what financial services should look like. And I speak very specifically in there that most financial advisors are wrong. Most financial advisors are doing it wrong. They're doing a complete disservice to the people out there. They aren't taking into account the taxation and how long people live. They're not taking into account the most expensive thing out there is if a person becomes sick, hurt, or disabled. Who's going to pay for that? Medicare doesn't cover it past 60 days. Their own personal insurance will drop them at the end of each year. That has to come from you, your right front pocket. But in chapter 5, I talk about how I get other people to pay for it and how it creates the zero effect, zero fees for a long-term care product, zero losses in your portfolio, zero taxes when you do it correctly. Those are the most important things. It's not about how much money you make. If you make $1 million a year, but you end up spending $1.1 million and then have to pay tax on all that you earned, these are the things people don't think about. They think if I make a lot of money, I'm going to be fine. Maybe, but it's not about what you make. It's about what you keep and how you use it correctly to better your life and the better life of your family when you need it in the future. That's the best piece of advice out there. Get the book. It's a few dollars investment in a person's life, the paperback, the hardback, and even download it at any of the fine retailers out there, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Lulu. There's about 10 different platforms out there. But the best thing they can do for themselves is make themselves aware, make themselves more educated on the products that are out there. They're not sexy products. They're not, oh, wow products. You know what? They're also not ever going to let you down. But it will help you have a better retirement.
Yes, Mr. Lance Mays, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Please, yes, if you could. Again, it's at fine online retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Lulu, several different areas. Pick up a copy, either download it on a Kindle or ebook or print to have. Andy, I wanted to say thank you and congratulations on all your success. I have a lot more to talk about another time. Maybe we can set up another time because there's so many aspects that people need to understand. Again, thank you so much for your time.
You are most welcome, Mr. Lance. Yes, I'm inviting you to my abstract essay and let's talk about more about your book itself. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Lance Mays because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering business like this or books like this to come. So, Mr. Lance, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
More to come, people. See you soon.